for a number of reasons. Obviously, things that are going on throughout the state, our great state of Texas. Wanted to pay a particular close tribute to our all our victims in the Texas Hill Country, as you all know, the devastating floods that have happened, and also wanted to pay a particular special tribute to one of our own, the Texas high school soccer community, as well as many people are in mourning. The Texas high school soccer community is no different, as we lost one of our own recently in Coach Reese Zunker, the head boy soccer coach of Kerrville Tivy, and along with his wife Paula. And so what we wanted to do is just start our show a little differently today, and wanted to go ahead and let them know that we're thinking about them, and go ahead and start with this brief moment of silence. Thank you.
From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast, episode 136, brought to you by our new proud partners, our new title sponsor of the 50/50 Podcast and the 50/50 Podcast Network. It is Jeanette Spain, Texas veteran realtor. This episode is brought to you by, again, Jeanette Spain, TexasVeteranRealtor.com, the go-to realtor for military and veteran families in Central Texas. With her cover and move, I got your six approach. You focus on the move while she handles the contracts, deadlines, and details. Want a retail who works like you and fights for you? Visit TexasVeteranRealtor.com for your free, no pressure strategy session. Again, that is Jeanette Spain at TexasVeteranRealtor.com. Gentlemen, how are you?
Doing good, brother.
Doing good.
Good. Doing
You
great.
guys do know this is a podcast, right? We're gonna have to talk tonight, right? Just want to make sure. Awesome. No, hey, excited. We got a serious panel here tonight. So obviously with my lovely co-host on Inside Texas High School Soccer, the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas High School Soccer. He is Coach Rafa C. Rafa, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good here, live from Laredo, Texas.
Yeah, I'll forgive you for your jersey, but we'll look past that. And then I am also joined by three great coaches across the state of Texas, different parts of the state. I am joined by Coach Elias Ramos, the head women's soccer coach of McKinney Boyd, Coach Eduardo Venegas, the head women's soccer coach of Georgetown Eagles, and Coach making his fifth appearance. Is that right? Is that what you said? Not that you're counting, right?
Oh, I count everything.
Coach Brian Heyman, the head men's soccer coach of Baytown Sterling Rangers. Everybody's got to be. Elias, what is this? This is what, 3 for you?
I think this is 3, yeah.
3 for you. And Coach Venegas, this is what, Ed, this has got to be 3 for you too? No,
This is my second one.
Second?
Yep.
Second. Gotcha. Okay. We got to make sure you guys get you guys up so you guys can pass Coach Heyman. So,
I'll start on my jersey now. That's all I needed.
So welcome. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you guys. Obviously, tough what's going on right now across the state, and we had pushed off this episode obviously for a number of reasons, out of respect, and also just kind of wanted to collect our thoughts, and also so this episode tonight is we want to share this in honor of Coach Zunker, as we said, and just do what I know he would love in terms of talking our great sport and letting him know that we're thinking about him, thinking about his family as well. So let's make this a great show, boys, in honor of him and all our many great coaches across the state of Texas that I know are with them as well. So as we do that, we're going to go ahead. We're going to dive into. Let me go ahead and open this guy up real quick. All right, the honorary energy drink here. So, all right. So first episode we got going on here is, or first segment, I should say, is something new that we wanted to introduce when we're calling it "What You Watching, Reading, and Listening To." So a little bit of, hey, what's the latest TV series? What are you watching? Maybe a movie, Formula One, something you recently saw, something you're reading. Coach Heyman, you better be reading something, man. And then as well as what are you listening to? Maybe podcast, something other than your favorite podcast, the 50/50 podcast. All right, maybe a recent new album, something, I don't know. What do we got? We're going to go around. Let's go with what are you watching first? We'll start with Elias. What do you got, Coach Ramos?
Just finished up the 4th season of The Bear.
Nice.
Watched that. So binged that. Got the girlfriend to binge all 3 seasons with me before the 4th. And then watched Stick on Apple TV. That's with Owen Wilson. He's like a washed up golf guy. Takes like a young hot shot under his wing. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, I've got girlfriend sucked me into Love Island a little bit. So
Don't be blaming it on her, man. You're probably the one. Don't
it's
be
one
blaming
of those things where it's like, if it's on, then I'm like, wait, what's going on? So
Yeah.
so
Gotcha.
those are the 3. Reading a book called 2 versus 1. I think we kind of talked about that. And then listening, just not really listening to anything in particular, just kind of whatever I'm kind of feeling at the moment. So
Gotcha. Sweet. We'll go, Coach Heyman. What do you got? You can hit on all of them, or we can go through one at a time. What are you watching?
Since I'm technically not allowed to really do much now, since I'm recovering from surgery. Let's see. I've watched the entire 2 seasons of 1923. I watched Landman. I watched Mobland. I have watched every Club World Cup game going
How
on.
is Mobland? How is Mobland?
It took a little bit of time for me to get into it, and then it kind of exploded on me. So I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah. Okay.
I've watched all the Club World Cup. I've watched almost all the Women's Euros. I've watched almost all the Gold Cup. The TV's been on 14 hours a day. So it's all been good.
So, and for those of you, in case you're wondering, yes, Coach Heyman has a life, but he's also playing injured right now, right? He's just recently had surgery. Are you in a boot or in a cast? What are you?
I am in a really good splint right now. So,
oh, nice.
We see the doctor tomorrow. Hopefully we get out of the splint, get into a boot. And then it's 4 weeks in the boot and then 4 months of rehab. And the doctor said I should be cleared in time for next year's faculty versus student volleyball game, which I have already said I will not be participating in.
Yeah. That was what, 2 weeks ago you had surgery? 2
weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So,
gotcha.
But I was a trooper. I struggled all the way in and out of Reliant Stadium on those crutches.
There you go. Yeah, you're going to be able to give us direct your firsthand experience of last night's Gold Cup final. So, listening to anything?
A little bit of David Baird's podcast, little coaching stuff every now and then, trying to pick up some little things. But my reading, I've finished several books on the soccer bookcase, but right now I'm reading Jose Mourinho's Special Leadership. Since he's kind of my coaching idol. That's kind of my coaching book for the summer. And then I started reading this one called The Frying Pan of Spain, which is Sevilla versus Betis.
Let me see that again.
It's called The Frying Pan of Spain, gotcha. Sevilla versus Betis.
Nice. Okay. Since
they're in the same neighborhood. My buddy, Coach Ray Kanzik down out in Katy Cinco Ranch, he's a Sevilla guy, and he's kind of gotten me hooked into being a Sevilla guy, when I'm not wearing Chelsea stuff. So he brought me that book. So it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, gotcha. Awesome. Great. Good stuff, man. I'm going to have to look that up. And Ed, Coach Venegas, what about you?
Man, I got a couple shows over the summer that I got a chance to watch. Currently watching the 0 Day on Netflix. It's a short series, about 6 episodes or so.
That's the one with Robert De Niro, right?
Yes, got Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
I had to go back and watch a few episodes actually a couple times because it's one of those kind of political thrillers where you miss a couple things, you go back and watch it. So I've been into that one, and then one that I just got done watching. I just finished it, and my wife actually was making fun of me for watching it because like it's so old. It's Lost.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's funny. I did not make it past the first season of that. I don't know why. Just some of them I could not. I
oh
couldn't
my
make it past
goodness.
first.
Like
Yeah,
once I got to the second or third season, it was tough to watch it, but I was so
yeah,
invested into it that I
yeah.
had to finish it.
How many seasons did that go?
I think it went 5 or 6. I'm gonna say.
Did it really? Wow,
Mhm.
crazy. Good deal. Listening to reading anything? Listening to anything?
I'm actually reading. I started reading it last summer, and I just never, for whatever reason, just never got to finish it. But it's the Carlo Ancelotti Wire Leadership book right here.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
It just talks about like his locker room and like how he handles like different like just stories from players about him and how he handles like different things.
Yeah.
Uh, so I've started reading that book again, and then listening to something. I just listened to the podcast on the national team, the U.S. Women's National Team. On it's got a what's her name? It's a Megan Klinsberg. I think she's one of the hosts, and she talks to
Okay.
Lindsey Horan and
Yeah.
Becky Sonderbond. They talk about like the passing the leadership
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and all that stuff, and it's like really, it was really good. Like I would recommend. They actually sent it to our captains a couple days ago when I got to listen to it, but it was really good.
Yeah. So you give them a little quiz, little test to see if they actually listen to it.
And all right, like
Awesome. All right, good stuff. All right, Rafa, what do you got? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to?
I just finished season 6 of Dark Side of the Ring. I'm a big wrestling fan, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
that
yeah.
on Vice
Season
and
six?
yeah, season
That
6.
is, yeah. Okay. Wow.
And then
Interesting.
also
Reading
finished
anything?
not really, not yet. I'm
Yeah.
sure soon, probably with the master's classes,
Yeah. Nice.
sports management.
Podcasts.
Probably
I know
that.
you're deep into podcasts. What are you listening to right now? Anything?
I kind of poked the bear on that Alamo Sports cast because they talk about Spurs, a lot
The
of the
They
Spurs.
have two, right? It's 210, and I get them mixed up. Alamo Sportscast and 210
Yeah,
podcast,
I think Alamo.
Area 210
Era
podcast, something like
210,
that.
yeah, that one,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So they talk
Gotcha.
about a lot of San Antonio Spurs stuff, and Mike Jimenez didn't make any fans today talking about soccer.
Of course.
I
Of
know
course.
Matt. I know Matt was not happy about it because I
Yeah.
spoke to him about that. So
Yeah.
just been busy trying to recover.
Yeah.
I'm tennis sub for playing drums for the
I
supporter
was gonna
group.
say that it was from pickleball. So good deal. Awesome. Me, what am I watching? So I'll jump in here too. So speaking of Apple TV, Coach Ramos was talking about it. That Neighbors and Friends. I don't know if you've seen that yet with Jack. What is it? Jack Ham, I think it is, or John Ham, whatever his name is. Saw that, made it through. That was actually pretty good. I thought I was kind of one of those of let me see if I can make it past 1 or 2 episodes, and I think it's 8 or 9 episodes. Definitely worth the watch. It's really interesting, good watch. So that's the last thing I watched, and then what I'm reading was I heard some guy told me about this book right here, so thought I'd give it a list, give it a read there, Coach Ramos, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to dive into that. I literally have just made it. I'm in page 2 or 3, I think, right now, since I just got it. But looking forward to that as well. So good read. I've heard lots of great things, and then Coach Ramos and I were talking about it offline just the other day. We were talking about a couple of different things, and right when he mentioned that book, it was perfect timing because I was just looking it up. So great stuff. And then podcasts, I'm kind of all over the place right now. Last thing I was listening to was the what was it? It was just the ESPN FC, the post-match report on the last night's Gold Cup, right? Hercules Gomez, and they weren't too nice to the U.S. men's national team. I'll leave it at that. So, all right. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna move on. Transition to our summer of soccer talk. Starting with the Gold Cup. So no particular order. We want to just dive in. Don't wait for me to ask the questions. Get our thoughts on. So last night's Gold Cup came to a close. Last night's Gold Cup final as both Mexico and the referees prevailed over the U.S. men's national team. Sorry, Freudian slip there. I meant Mexico. All right. Thoughts on last night's game? We look at maybe break it down into chunks, maybe the start, 20 minutes in, the first half, and then, of course, the second half. Thoughts? We'll start with you, Coach Ramos, and then everybody jump in from there. Thoughts on last night's game, Coach?
It was physical. It was definitely a rivalry game. You could tell there was a little extra in all the challenges, which was, I thought the referee did a good job of letting that stuff kind of play out. He missed some big calls, I agree with you, but I thought that he let it be a rivalry game, which was kind of fun to as a neutral, if you were a neutral, but it looked like the U.S. had an idea of what they wanted to do. They just couldn't do it. Like they would try to build out, but they just got, just Mexico was all over them. They could not find any sort of seams in the midfield. It was a bad showing for us, I think.
Right. Yeah, there was that stage, right, where before second half here, before the second goal came from Mexico, when I think it was, who was it, Downs, I think, was subbed in or was getting ready to sub in. Excuse me. And you could just tell they just looked all out of flux in terms of what there was clear confusion on the field as to who needed to be where or what what roles they were supposed to be in at that point. And there was a lot of speculation as to Poach's subs, or one lack thereof, or the timing of the subs, which was kind of a reoccurring thing through the Gold Cup. So yeah, definitely agree with you. I think it kind of came down to a chunk of it was definitely personnel, right? Like the idea was there, but maybe they didn't have the people to pull it off, right? Against a very solid, very good Mexico squad. So who else? Thoughts on last night? Rafa, let's go with you. Thoughts on last night?
I think for the Mexican national team, they're getting better. There's still more room for improvement. Even I was watching last night the ESPN Deportes and Picante and all them. They were still getting criticized. I was like, this is a work in progress. But you got to give it to Aguirre. I think the players really bought into his system, and you can tell them they were really hustling on plays and they minimized, except for that one mistake on the goal. But like I said, defensively they were winning balls. They were challenging, and they were really kind of confusing the U.S. As far as their shape, they stayed compact. That was a big thing last night, and the patience, them touching the ball, not rushing things, and so I got some high hopes. That team, like I said, it's gonna, I'm not saying they're gonna win the World Cup, but hey, they're gonna be more competitive. I think it's still a work in progress. I think there's some players there on that squad that are probably gonna get cut loose. I think he's still. I think maybe 60% of that roster is going to be in the World Cup. I think the other 40% we're probably seeing from the friendlies. But the standout has got to be Mora, the 16-year-old. I mean, he's
oh yeah.
He's that diamond in the rough, and hopefully, Cholos do a favor for him, send him out to Europe because that's where he needs to be.
Well, how much longer is he? I mean, are they actively shopping him? How much longer, like the current contract that he's on, what do they have? How much longer do they have?
I'm not sure with the contract, but I'm guessing for his performance in the Gold Cup, I'm sure that they're already getting phone calls for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought last year Barcelona tried to get him to go over, but he wasn't 16, so they couldn't pay him. And so now that he's 16, I think he can sign pro contracts. Yeah. That'll be interesting to see where he lines up because I agree, he's a huge talent.
Yeah. We've already contacted him about a foreign exchange student waiver coming to Baytown Sterling.
Yeah.
I thought when Aguirre subbed him off last night, he basically told him, he goes, "You're going to enjoy Baytown. You're going to learn a lot from Coach Heyman.
Don't listen to the coach.
World Cup this summer." So the contract's been signed, but it hasn't been notarized, so it's not official. So he can play for me. So
notarized. Yeah.
No
Are you going to give him? Maybe he's. Is he going to get that Nico Williams Barca contract? Is that what he's getting there? Or,
not at Baytown Sterling. He's going to get a year and a half, and then he's going to be overage, and we ain't going to be able to work that out anymore. So, I told him 3 months, and he didn't even need to go to class.
Yeah. Sorry, Elias. I had to get that one in there, man. I had to get that one in there. So.
And I woke up to that, and that Nico Williams. I was like, no freaking way.
dude.
And then, of course, my group chat is just roasting me because a lot of them are Real fans. My brother's a big Real fan, and
There we go. I knew someone's good in your family.
definitely.
So, yeah, that was a good day. Rafa and I in our group chat, we were our Texas high school soccer chat. We were cracking jokes because I was like, that was just a great day. Like I see that, and what was it like? Maybe 2 hours later, like Barca gets fined like 20 million or something like
15
that,
million.
or 15 million, along with the team in London that shall not be named, but jersey is being
We've
worn.
already won that money, and we just told FIFA to hang on to it and keep it. We don't need all that prize money for this World Cup.
So yeah, so I saw that. I was like, God, this is a great day. This is a great day. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree. I think very good. You know, the thing with there definitely, I think Aguirre has figured out the kind of the tempo, the temperament, and just the pulse of this group, right? Because I think who was it? Man, I think it was Alexi Lalas actually that was talking about it. Was this Mexico team is? I think what did he say? I think it was him. He said they're suspects because there's zero controversy, there's zero drama, right? So that's not your prototypical Mexican national team, right? So what is that going to be like how does that unfold over the next 6 to 10 months? We shall see. But yeah, they looked very good, very strong. The experience in the class showed, particularly in that second half last night. And but you know, I mean, I don't know. I don't look at it as kind of a glass half full, but not necessarily a moral victory. But the fact that it still took two great goals, I should say, for Mexico to pull that off. On top of the fact that U.S. scored on them 4 minutes in after not giving up a goal. Mexico not giving up a goal for 383 minutes. So there was some good to take away there for the U.S. men's side as well. And hey, the best thing about the last time Aguirre was the El Tri's coach, the U.S. went to the quarterfinal. Let's not forget that. So we'll see. We'll see if that lucky charm continues. So, Coach Venegas, how about you?
Man, I thought it was one of your typical rivalry game. Like lots of going, like very physical, lots of back and forth. I think one of the things you had your controversy with the handball in the box and all that, but I think one of the coolest things for the U.S. team in this Gold Cup is you've seen a lot of new faces, or some players have gotten their opportunity. Like what's this guy's name? Diego Luna, right? Who's been waiting to have the opportunity with so many guys out, or the opted out of the tournament. So I think that's been fun for to watch from the U.S. Not great soccer at times, but fun to see new faces and see what they do with the opportunity that they get.
Yeah, they struggled. They definitely struggled to keep leads, and they allowed teams whoever, it didn't matter who was it, Guatemala or Costa Rica. They allowed them to grow into the games. When they could have. I mean, there was what I'd say maybe the first 15, 20 minutes of that match last night. It was there for the taking with the U.S., right? And especially after they got that first goal, and then they kind of I don't know, they just let off the gas. Mexico started to mount more. You started to see more pressure further and further up, and then they just started to dictate possession, dictate the game. So yeah, and we'll take it to the man who was there last night. Give us the full lowdown as you saw it from your point of view, Coach.
All right. Before I get into this, so at the game in Hartford, they gave out these posters here with all the players on it that literally says "Believe in us." Hey, Hector, I got one coming to you, buddy. There was nice. 10 or 12,000 boxes of them sitting there, so I was able to grab a few. But on that poster, there's only 4 guys that played in the Gold Cup. And we're talking Diego Luna, Mark McKenzie, and a few others. So for me, watching this group, you saw a bunch of guys that aren't going to play in the World Cup. I mean, you could sit there and say, yes, we have some guys that played well. Ami Yang played well. No, he didn't. He didn't play. He wasn't very good yesterday. Diego Luna got absolute. If you from where I was sitting, really and truly, the whole first half, anytime he got near the ball, he was getting crowded, 2-3 guys on him. The physicality, they marked him out of the game. So from the start, Mexico had a plan to kind of deny our playmakers from doing anything. They were, the physicality was over the top. I mean, it felt like a good old fashioned USA Mexico game. And I'm very glad to finally see some U.S. players that actually played like it was a USA Mexico rivalry game. Those guys, I mean, there were some bloody tackles going in there. Tillman was going in left and right on stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I think when you look at the end of this World Cup or the end of this Gold Cup cycle, you can go ahead and put Tillman's name in pin on the World Cup roster. You can go ahead and put Chris Richards in there. Tell me he's not the captain of this team going forward.
Well, the interesting thing with Richards was we talked about it on the chat last night. I was glad to see him get that header when he did because it had been mounting, right? Because he's good in the air when it comes to finding the ball, but his placement has not been clinical, right? It was constantly gets to a ball, great ball, but right to the keeper, right to the keeper or right over the crossbar consistently. And he finally got one. He finally got one last night. So yeah, I think he's a big winner. I agree.
I think Matt Freese goes into the friendlies now as the number one over Turner.
What's the latest on Stefan? Is he?
I think it's just I don't know. I have not seen him. I would have loved to have seen him play in this Gold Cup and come back. I think he fits in 1, 2, or 2 or 3 right now with this team. But like watching the game last night, getting the goal early was great. And I felt like, and I was telling Coach Kanzik next to me, we needed a second goal quickly, and we could have taken the crowd out of the game because that crowd got into that game. It got into it very quickly, and I think the U.S. I think you saw some guys like Freeman and Berhalter, some of those guys that have never been in that kind of environment ever, struggle with the fact that there's 60,000 fans against them in a stadium. And you could tell there were jitters. There was a lot of just blind clearances. And
now, what would you say? You were there. Was it a legit 90-10 Mexico-U.S. crowd?
Easy.
Was it 90-10?
And it was funny. I was talking with some friends after the game. And, a lot of our American Outlaws are traditional guys that you see at every game. They weren't there. And I told them, I was like, who expected the U.S. to be in the final when we saw this roster? When we saw this roster drop and no Pulisic, no McKinney, no Weah, all these guys that dropped that weren't on the roster. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, is Patrick Amieng going to lead this team to a Gold Cup final? Probably not. And the fact, and I'll give Poch a lot of credit. He got them there. At the end of the day, you do have to win games, and he won games with talent that probably, like I said, probably won't play next year in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So, but it was very, very much 90-10 easy last night at NRG because we were able to get out of the stadium so quickly because all the Mexican fans stayed for the trophy ceremony and stuff. We were able to get out of there. Even me on crutches, I was able to get to the car pretty quickly last night.
Yeah.
So we were out of there within about 20 minutes once the game was over.
Yeah. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, not familiar with Coach Heyman, his background, he is very much American Outlaws, U.S. men's national team, U.S. soccer period, super fan, and he goes everywhere. And last night he was at the CONCACAF, the CONCACAF.
The way the referees were, it was CONCACAF.
Yeah. He was at the CONCACAF Gold Cup final last night against doctor's orders, right? Hey, you put it out there. I didn't. So after you put it out there, I was like, all right.
I don't think he was watching the game. I hope not.
So Mexico prevails 2-1 the final, and they win their second consecutive Gold Cup and beat the U.S. for the first time in a competitive match in 6 years. So interesting. We'll see where it goes from there. What's the slate for friendlies for El Tri in the fall? Have they come?
Yeah.
Have they gone public with anything? What do they got?
So September they play, I think, South Korea and Japan. I think the U.S. also plays them too.
Are they playing in Mexico? Both of them, Mexico.
That I believe it's going to be in the U.S.
Of course, yeah.
So, and then October, I'm hearing word that they're going to try to play 2 club teams, possibly European teams.
Liga MX, or what do you?
No, L3 versus 2 European club teams.
Oh,
during the window, kind of like what they did with the when they played the South American team and they played River Plate.
Yeah.
I think Aguirre kind of he realizes like since they're not in qualification, they're not going to get
Mhm.
quality games with some of these friendlies. So, and especially the European teams and the South American teams still in qualification, there's really not much out there. So his best thing, he made the suggestion, hey, you know what? Let's just play club teams while they're
Yeah.
off. It's good competition because those club teams are real more gelled because they know each other,
Mhm.
and it's just going to be some better competition for his players. And that way, I think what he wants to do, I think with these games, he wants to see who could fill the roster spots. I think he has an idea of who's going to start, but it's more who can fill up that bench. So that way he's got that team ready to go. Because like Chavez is out till hopefully he's back by the spring because he tore his ACL. So hopefully he's ready to go because he's a big playmaker, and he's very deadly on those free kicks. So,
Yeah.
but
What about my man with the sideways finger? Who was that again? Was that Jimenez or no Alvarez? Who was that? Did you see that? Had his dislocated finger last night. Did
Santi,
you see? Was it okay?
Santi Jimenez, yeah. So
Yeah,
well, he's
it
with
was-
I guess with AC Milan, so
Yeah,
I'm sure he's going to get
Yeah.
plenty.
yeah. A lot of discussion. On the the handball, no handball last night, and just how you interpret the rules, and that's the problem. It's still very gray, open to interpretation. So I don't know. I can be
Okay,
the
so
rule
as a
can say one
referee, do
thing,
you call
but
that?
I don't. Well, I mean, Poach himself put it out there, right? You see the quote he said. It's like, hey, if that happens on the other side of the field, that's a penalty, right?
Absolutely.
And for him to come out and say that, I don't know. It should
think
tell you something.
I think he's learned a little CONCACAF already this summer.
Yeah. I know. Thoughts on the handball there, Coach Ramos, Coach Venegas?
I mean, it's depending on how you interpret the law. I guess the law is written that you have to have somewhere to put your hand if you're falling down. But he reached, so then that's not a natural. I don't know. It looked like a handball to me.
It does not look. It
It
does
looked
not
like
look
a
natural.
stretch.
No.
It was a stretch of trying to make the rule fit the ruling. Like I think
Correct.
they made the decision of we're not going to call a handball, and then they try to jump through the mental gymnastics of well, this is what the rule says,
Hmm.
and so at least that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of massaging around the verbiage of the rule, the verbiage of the law, right? As to the support arm, and I was like, dude, it's like the guy full extension, his knee is already on the ground,
Yeah.
right? Full extension, places his ball or hand on the ball, and then rotates it, and then pushes it, and stands back up on it to where it's now to his advantage, you know. So I don't know. I just
And the fact that it wasn't reviewed.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what gets me even more. You have the VAR officials there. Take a look at it. Unless there was some CONCACAF corruption that they were just not going to let the U.S. win this tournament with their backups. I just don't see how anybody in their right mind could say that was natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harry
I
Austin.
understand if you like your hand is down already and the ball hits you,
Yeah.
That's
But
yeah.
I mean, he lands right on top of the ball. Like he reaches out, lands right on top of the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
And I think you put it perfectly. Like when you look at it, and the thing that's when you look at it, here's the review part, Brian, is that if you were to review it, when you look at it in slow motion, it looks worse. It looks worse in slow motion.
Exactly.
It looks worse. So, but yeah,
If they'd have brought the official over to the screen to look at it, does he change his call?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Good friend of the pod, Harry Austin's in here. The handball, very good point. The handball is not consistent, which is the problem. So, but yeah, I think he's saying VAR reviewed it and said the call was right.
The VAR was watching The Simpsons, not watching the game.
Yeah. So, yeah, great
I
point.
can go
Another
all
great
night
point in
long.
here from Harry talking about
Referees and handballs.
Mexico was the best team all tournament. Coach is right. The team's more Dempsey than Donovan. All right. So, all right. Last thing we'll look on this. So we talk about from the perspective of the U.S. men's national team. Coach Heyman hit on it a little bit, but I'm kind of curious. Coach Ramos, Coach Venegas, Rafa, who maybe stood out to you as maybe the big winners from this? I'm calling it a C team. I'm not being as nice as many. I'm calling it a flat out C team. Who are the winners out of this group that I don't know about starters, but maybe have put themselves in a position to make the roster next year?
Um,
Man, I'm not great with names, but there's like you got to think about like how many players were out, so how much room, like
Mm,
how much room are you like? Is there really like on the actual World Cup team? You know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but
yeah.
but I think there were some players that got an opportunity to play and show what they got. You know, I mean, show what they're capable of.
Coach Ramos?
yeah, I mean, I don't know that there was like any real standouts, but I do think in international soccer, you see national team coaches go with players that they know what they're going to get from them, and I think that there will be a couple of players that get a call back up just because Poach is more comfortable with them. He knows that they know what he wants from them, what he's going to get, and vice versa. I mean, you see that with, like even just like teams like France, like with all their attackers right now, the ones that are getting called up are the ones that Deschamps feels comfortable with, or Spain with Cucurella at left back. Like, is he the best Spanish left back? Probably not, but De La Fuente feels really good about what he can do and knows that he knows what he needs from him. So I think that there's a lot of guys on that roster that are winners, just in the sense that they got to go the full length of the tournament, which adds a lot of time with the national team and adds a
Yeah,
lot of time for their understanding of what he's trying to do. So,
yeah.
um, as far as on-field standouts, I don't know that besides Diego Luna, but I think that there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that these players really got themselves a leg up for being there.
Yeah, yeah. You bring up a great point in terms, and for our athletes listening, it's very important that you understand this, that coaches gravitate towards, when it comes to playing time, when it comes to starters, and when it comes to finishers, right? Who you want on the field in critical moments late in the game. Coaches, they go to players that they can trust, right? May not be the most quote unquote talented, gifted, but players that they can trust, right? So that's something to think about, right? But yeah, I agree with that. And and the other thing, I think when it comes to this group, the when it comes to the U.S. this group of the U.S. men's national team, well, overall, I should say, there's probably five, maybe six, if we had to tier them, that are like first tier players. After that, you have maybe another four or five. You do the math on that, you're talking about anywhere in the range of 10 to 12, maybe. But this is now a 26 man roster now, I think, right,
Yeah.
for this World Cup. So where is that? Who's going to make up the other half, right? And that drop off, right? So yeah, I think from the goalkeeper perspective, I still think you have a lot of questions. Matt Turner had no minutes. Freeze took all the minutes, and I think I'm not sold on the fact that he's your starter coming to the World Cup. I'm probably sold on the fact that in the World Cup, if the U.S. is going to penalties, he's your goalkeeper. He's your penalty specialist, right? I think that is now known. I think that's my takeaway from that. So, but yeah. So, and Harry in here is talking about Luna earned a World Cup roster spot. We shall see. Still got to make it through the fall. I think it's September, October, November camps, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right, we move on.
Definitely.
Yeah, we move
Well,
on.
I think he needs to leave Real Salt Lake, and if he wants to get on the World Cup spot, he needs to leave Real Salt Lake. And there's rumors of him going to Club America. I think that'd be a better move for him because it'll be a better competition.
Yeah,
And then look at the job Jardin's done with that squad. I mean, he's going to learn a lot from him, and
yeah,
so that's if he's got that opportunity, I think he needs to do that because I think staying Real Salt Lake, I think that's going to hinder him from getting on in
yeah.
the 1-6 spots.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he gets loaned out or what. But yeah, I know there has been some rumor mills about him getting some looks from Europe, but you know how that goes. So,
I think Celta Vigo,
what's that?
I think was looking at him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, we move on here. So, we're gonna look at the Club World Cup here. So, and we're down to the final four, the semifinals here. in Fluminense, Chelsea, PSG, and Real Madrid. Thoughts on this so far, guys?
Man, I have loved this Club World Cup. For everyone that's criticized it, I understand their criticisms, but man, to see some of these teams that have played, see some of these players that you may not know very much about, seeing the Brazilian, the Brazilian fans have showed out massively. The Argentinian fans were fantastic. Um, Monterrey fans were great. So I mean, it's been a great event. I mean, as always, when you host an event for the first time, you always can fine tune it better ways.
Right.
Which I think they will in 4 years when they do this all again. But I'm glad to see my team in the semifinals. So after the struggles we've had over the past few years, so I'm hoping we can take care of business tomorrow. It'll be tough. Fluminense has been fantastic. But I'd like to see Chelsea to win the whole thing, just because those are my guys.
Yeah.
But it's been a great event.
Yeah, I think it's taken. Obviously, you wouldn't know it necessarily looking from at the stands, right? And these tickets, but significant drop in the price of tickets. So, but yeah, thoughts. You look at the Club World Cup as a whole in this new format. Have you been surprised by it, Coach Ramos? What are your thoughts?
I have, I think it's been awesome to watch, just the different teams go through it. It feels like a World Cup where you have some underdogs that overperform and beat some of these, bigger favorite teams. It's been fun to watch, get an early look at Real Madrid under Xabi Alonso, getting a look at, Pep, what he's going to do at City. Even just watching the PSG Bayern game, I thought Bayern had a really good plan against PSG.
Right.
It kind of fell apart there at the end. But you watch them, they went, man, high press. I think there was a clip of Jonathan Tah, basically in the attacking third, pressing one of their center midfielders all the way there. So just watching, these teams trying to come up with solutions. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm a big, I'm a Barca guy, so I'm all PSG right now with Luis Enrique. He's my guy. So I'm, them or Fluminense are my two. As a Barca guy, I can't go for Real, and too many encounters with Chelsea for me to really root for Chelsea. Sorry, Coach Heyman.
It's all right. Our bandwagon's full.
There's some clubs that we don't talk about on this podcast, Coach, and we'll allow Chelsea, but we won't allow the other one. Okay, so yeah, the interesting part about this too is you talk about PSG, and I was talking about this on one of our chats. Is right now I think overall, as much as I hate to say it, they're the best. They're the best club in the world right now. Right, just for a number, and you look at, and I think at the core, it all revolves around their midfield, right? Their Portuguese midfield, those guys are killing it, and they're on an incredible run right now in terms of what you see them doing from the UEFA Champions League, taking that, then turning right back around, winning Nations League with Portugal, and now here they are in the semifinal of the Club World Cup, and they're the favorite, right? They're the clear favorite versus Real, where you kind of get the feeling with Real Madrid, they're definitely still sorting things out. New coach, that whole process. They probably looked their best against Dortmund up until somebody forgot to tell them that they still had to play through stoppage time, right? Because it got interesting during stoppage time. But yeah, I think we're in store for a great. I don't know that Real matches up well with PSG, so we'll see. I think Real Madrid will have to get off to a fast start, but yeah, should be interesting. And then on the other side, you look at the Brazil squads, the South American squads. That's kind of been the talk of the tournament up until this point. So to see Fluminense making it this far, we talk about them versus Chelsea, and being completely objective, taking your fanboy hat off, Coach Heyman. How do you feel Fluminense matches, or Chelsea matches up with Fluminense and vice versa?
I think the first thing that's going to go into this is Chelsea's going to go into this without Levi Colwell at center back. He's been the rock the whole tournament for them, but he's suspended on yellow cards, and then Delap is also suspended as well. So there's two big parts of what Maresca's trying to do that's missing. It's going to be a real battle. Chelsea's going to have to try to find a way to score goals, be creative in front of Fluminense. Fluminense's probably been the best defensive team in the tournament. And that's because they've got the rock Thiago Silva playing center back for him, and he's got that team ready to run through a brick wall. I don't know if you saw the video of him giving the pregame speech for the semifinal or the quarterfinals when they played Al Hilal, but just listening to him talk up his teammates, I was ready to run on the field for him. Just the way he motivated his team.
Yeah.
So I think if Chelsea can get one early, kind of what they did against Palmeiras, then they will sit back like they did, almost very similar to what the U.S. did. They'll try to hit them on the counter, and it'll turn in. I think the second half will turn into very much a end-to-end kind of game like the second half of the game against Palmeiras was. The other thing you got to think about, that game's going to be at 2:00 tomorrow at the Meadowlands. So how is the heat? How are the field conditions going to?
What's the forecast? Have you looked at the forecast?
No, I haven't. But all of these afternoon games have been hot, and I don't. What game? The game Saturday, Real Madrid. That was there. So Real can basically stay at MetLife the rest of the way. Their match versus PSG will be at MetLife, and then of course, both semifinals
if they win, both
semifinals are at MetLife. So I think I didn't think the field conditions were terrible in the Real game, but I don't. You just don't know what it's like when you're laying all this grass on turf. I mean, the U.S. game last night, you could tell there was some issues with the turf being laid, with the grass being laid down as well. But
was it really evident watching it in person? Because you were like third, fourth row. I mean, was it evident on? Was it?
I was in the front row. I was in the front row, buddy.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Sorry.
But no, you could tell. I mean, players on both teams were slipping. Crosses looked like golf shots with divots being taken out of the turf. It was pretty bad. But
what was the worst? I guess what was the worst on that though? Was it more the bounce? Is it just the speed of the ball, or is it the footing? I guess that's what I was trying. That's what I was trying to say.
Last night I thought it was the footing. There were several plays early on. Players were just slipping all over the place.
Yeah,
both teams. But I don't know. Like tomorrow, like I said, I'm gonna go in there with my fan hat on and hope my guys come through it. But either way, I think it's going to be just an incredible game because I think these are two very, very good teams. Mm-hmm. And I don't think people give Fluminense a lot of enough credit for what they've done down in Brazil. But they're a team with a lot of history as well. So should be. Yeah. I'm gonna say 2-1 Chelsea.
Okay,
that's my prediction.
Don't they have two guys on their back line, right? Combined age of like 78 or something like that?
Well, I mean, Thiago Silva's 40 and their goalkeeper's 44.
Is it? They have another guy, I think that's 38, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
I'm trying to remember who it is. Yeah. So, all right. Rafa, your thoughts? We talk about this Club World Cup and kind of the emergence, the surprise maybe of the South American teams, the Brazilian teams. And, there's been a lot of complaining about the weather, right, when it comes to the European squads, which, I mean, this is going to be the conditions, next year. So your thoughts on all of that?
I mean, you got to give the Brazilian teams an advantage because they're used to playing that type of weather. It's humid in Brazil. So I think it's great perfect for them. This is going to be a great matchup. Like I said, can Chelsea beat a second Brazilian team? And like I said, Fluminense has been kind of hitting all strides these last few games, and they're exciting to watch. And it's this like I said, it's going to be a fun game. I think this will come down to is if they mentioned about the weather's death, because if you read about the Juve team, that all 10 of their players were asking for subs because they're all worn out. So that's going to come down. Who has the bench players? Who's able to kind of give them that pep in their step? When they come in, give them that extra fuel. It'll be a close game. I think Chelsea pulls it out. It'll be close. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes to extra time. I think this could go to extra time, but Chelsea probably sneak one in and kind of put them away. It's going to be back and forth.
So prediction, official score line in this Chelsea Fluminense. What do you got?
I think 2-1. I think this one goes extra time.
2-1 in extra time. Good. All right, and then being completely objective, PSG and Real Madrid. What are your thoughts? Prediction on that one?
Real Madrid is going to be out. I can think one of the kind of the start surprises of the players that money was well invested with Dean getting that red card. That's going to hurt them.
Yeah.
But Housen and can Asensio step up? I know Rudiger's going to be hard, but the one that you gotta. Do you bench Gonzalo and start Mbappe? Which
he's playing great, man. He's playing great.
Yeah, I think Mbappe needs to come off the bench. Save him. I would save him. He's still recovering from that virus. But what can you say about Gonzalo Garcia? He's took full advantage of this tournament, and he's really. They were talking about signing a number 9. Well, here you go. I think he's not saying that he's the second coming of Raul Gonzalez, but he's got the
I think we'll know how Xabi Alonso wants to play this, depending upon if he decides to start Mbappe or not. Right, that'll kind of tell you. So if he wants to get out fast or not. So I don't know because I could see this game getting away from them too. So prediction on this one. What do you got? Scoreline?
I think we win this one. I think
really.
It's gonna be a tough one, but I have faith in this team. You're gonna see that the players are really believing in Xabi Alonso, and never seen a 3-back at Real Madrid, and it's working. You got to give it like Shona Mismain playing great. Valverde is like the Esther enforcer. He's been playing great too. It's gonna be back and forth, but I can see this can also go to extra time. I can see Real maybe winning like 2-1.
Okay, good. Coach Venegas, predictions, both games. What do you got?
Man, I'm a huge South American soccer fan. I'm from Peru, so grew up with just watching South American soccer, watching Boca, River, and the Brazilian team. So I'm rooting for Fluminense. Sorry, Brian. And I'm a huge Real Madrid fan too. So
there you go.
They're gonna be.
I'll give you that. I knew you were a good man. I knew you were.
Oh yeah. But they're gonna be. They're very tough games. Like Fluminense.
Yeah.
It's I think my favorite thing about this tournament has been like just watching the different styles from teams from all over the world.
Right. That's the best part. Yeah.
Yeah, not just the styles, but like the crowds, like the Boca River, how they take over stadiums. Same thing with the Brazilian teams.
Dude, Palmeiras was taking over all of New York. Did you see that?
Oh yeah,
took over all of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And watching some of the younger players, like Palmeiras has got the guy that's going to Chelsea. I forgot his name, but he's really good.
Esteval.
He scored a banger.
Who is it? What's his name?
Esteval.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's him. He scored a banger against Chelsea. Like it's. So it's been fun to watch those guys. It's been fun to watch the guy from River Plate, Mascherano, who's going to Real Madrid. He's like 17 years old. So I think that's been my favorite thing from this tournament.
Yeah.
But I'll say Fluminense goes to PKs and wins in PKs against Chelsea. Even though I'm a huge Real Madrid fan, it's gonna be tough for them. They're in their rebuild stage right now with Xabi Alonso. They don't have it together yet.
Yeah.
So you have PSG team that's flying at all cylinders, like they're clicking at all cylinders right now.
Yeah. Gotcha. Coach Ramos, bring it on home. Who do you got? I already know you got Real and Real PSG. So Chelsea and Fluminense.
I think Chelsea 3-1.
3. You're gonna put 3.
I don't know. I think both these games. It really depends how the game progresses into kind of the last moments. Like Real Madrid. If this game is within 2 goals with 10 minutes or less, it's game on. It's just black magic for Real. This is one of those games that has a classic Real written all over it where they just get worked all game and they are down. And then somewhere out of nowhere, they score.
Right where we want them.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I do worry about the back line of being objective about it, though, looking at Trent, who's not a great wide defender. He's a great player, but not a great wide defender. Looking at Fran Garcia, who works really hard, but I like Dembele or Doué or any of those PSG attackers versus him. And then you're probably going to have an out of position center back next to Rudiger, whether that's or if it's Asensio, he hasn't looked great. So it just
No, he has not.
I think that PSG, if they can build a good lead, they win comfortably. But I think that if Real keeps it anywhere close, I don't think you can ever count out Real, especially in these types of game states where it's win or go home. They just seem to thrive in that. So
yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I take PSG 3-1. Probably Chelsea. I think I could see that one actually going to extra time too. I do think Chelsea's bench is a little deeper, which could, they talk about it now. It's with 6 subs if you go to extra time. So you're looking at, so I don't know. That one is a little bit more of a toss up to me, but
yeah, I like Fluminense Chelsea. I think the Cinderella run continues. I like Fluminense in this. I don't know. I get feeling. I just get the penalties feeling on this one. I don't know why, but I like Fluminense in this one, not by much. And obviously they have to have a great start. And then PSG and Real. As much as it pains me, my heart is obviously with Real, but I really like how PSG is playing right now. So until somebody takes it from them, and the interesting thing is even though it's a semifinal, this is really the final, because I feel like maybe of these 3 other teams in here in the semifinals with PSG, Real probably matches up with them the best. But just as Rafa said, we got we're down a center back for getting a silly red card, who's been playing well. And there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns in terms of just how this team can be really wishy-washy, especially if you look at that game versus Dortmund in regulation, or I guess regular time versus then stoppage time. It was just like a totally different team that just stopped playing. So they can be still kind of a little finicky at times. And then you add the fact that they're still kind of learning. They're looking better. They're on the right track, but it's still very much a work in progress with Xabi Alonso. So I don't know. When I factor all that in with how PSG is playing, I just think too much PSG. Maybe it goes extra time, but I see PSG pulling away 2-1, maybe 3-1. Real has to get off to a fast start, and for them to really take it, they're gonna have to score more than once, I think. So
I think they need to start Mbappe. Mbappe versus
I agree.
With Enrique, I think he has a bone to pick with PSG. Especially with the comments that Enrique made right after he left on how they would be better without him.
Yeah.
And they have been, but I think that it'll be interesting to see how he plays versus PSG, because I think.
Do you think that'll be enough fuel for the fire with Mbappe? You really think so?
He's a big stage player too. I mean, it seems like the brighter the lights, the better he plays. So,
yeah,
I would be, if I was PSG, I would be worried. It depends where they play him. Like if they put Nuno Mendes on him, I think Nuno locks him up. But if they put him on the other side, I think he can have a lot of success.
Yeah. And those 2 games coming this week. Fluminense at Chelsea. Both matches will take place at 2 p.m. Central Time. Fluminense versus Chelsea tomorrow, and PSG and Real Madrid on Wednesday. So, any final thoughts on this, guys, before we move on?
No, I just want to find a way to get both teams to lose on Wednesday. How we make that work?
All right. So, all right. Oh, sorry. We move on. UEFA Women's Euros. So this one was I was gonna definitely defer a lot more to you guys, because this one I've been keeping up with scores, but have not had a chance to watch enough of enough of a match as I'd like to. Right, I think I've only watched two full matches so far of this. I've been catching a lot of bits and pieces of one half here, one half there, 40 or 60 minutes of a match. So thoughts, we dive into it. Let me go ahead and pull this guy up here real quick. Thoughts on the Euros. So, Coach Heyman, you've been our de facto subject matter expert here. So, thoughts on this so far?
Well, I think if you look at it after the last 5 days of this tournament, it's Spain's tournament to win, which means they'll probably lose to someone like France in a semifinal or something, because all the talk has just been how amazing Spain has been, and they really have. I mean, you score 11 goals in your first two games, and they looked extremely strong today against Belgium. But I think there are some cracks in that team. I think there are some things that a disciplined, organized team like a France, maybe like in Italy, or not Italy, maybe like in England can maybe expose and steal a result. But I think a lot of this goes back to these Spanish players. A lot of them play for Barcelona's women's team, who got beat by Arsenal in the women's Champions League final. So they're playing with a lot of hey, they're playing with a lot of extra incentive to get this win in this European Championship. The first group with Norway and Switzerland. I think Norway has been the most I want to describe just least impressive team to win their first two groups. Yesterday it's an own goal and a floated cross that finds the back post.
Well, it's a suspect. I shouldn't say suspect, but it's a you could see anybody kind of take group, right?
Yeah.
In Group A, kind of it's up for grabs. Maybe with the exception Iceland, Finland a little lower, but yeah,
Finland played Norway extremely tough yesterday. I thought Finland had a couple of chances to kind of to get the goal to go ahead of them. And then Norway, the match winning goal was, like I said, was a floated cross that hit the back that floated off the back post and in. So, Finland played extremely well yesterday. It'll come down to that Switzerland-Finland game. I believe Switzerland-Finland play the last game of this group. So I'm pretty sure. So
match day. Does it have match day 3 on here?
Yeah, Switzerland-Finland play. And I think Switzerland comes out of that. I think just based on the home crowd, willing them to win. But it's going to be a good group. But I have not been impressed with Norway. It's one of the few things that I will agree with Carly Lloyd on. They've been very underwhelming in this tournament. But like I said with the U.S., the name of the game is getting results, and they're through. So, But
I agree.
But like I said, I think Spain has been the class of the whole event, and I think they will be, and we'll see what happens. I can still see somebody picking them off late in this tournament. Whether
I don't know, man. I don't know right now. I don't know. Maybe PSG men's. Maybe I don't know the way they're playing right now.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I don't know. They just put on the gas. So so we move on. We look at your thoughts so far, Coach Ramos.
Yeah, I think obviously Spain is a class ahead of everyone through the first part of it. Being a big Spanish, so I watch a lot of Barca, women's team play. I still the center back pairing is very suspect to me. I don't think that they really have that third true defender. You look at both their outside backs with Batlle and Carmona, they're both really attacking wing backs, which when you don't have to defend in transition very much, that's great. But I worry about them in transition against a team like England that can maybe deny them, a lot more space, or Germany or France. I do think they have a lot of fire to play with, some things that I don't think people are really thinking about. They had an underwhelming Olympics last year where everyone thought that they were going to roll it right after their World Cup. They got kind of shell shocked by Brazil in a knockout game, and then also the Euro before. They were heavy favorites to win it, and Alexia Putellas tore her ACL like 3 days before the first game, which they felt like that really ruined their chances. So I think that I don't think that if they lose, it won't be from a lack of focus or them, overlooking anybody. But I do think that there are a couple holes in their game model that could be exploited by a really good team, a really well organized. But I
I
don't know.
just don't know. I don't know who is it.
Yeah,
England?
I don't know
Right?
how you stop that midfield three
Yeah.
of Alexia and Bomati and Patrick Guijarro, and the talent they can bring off the bench, like Vicky Lopez and
Hmm.
and
Well,
Salma.
Bomati is nowhere near 100% also.
No, yeah, and
Yeah.
she's only gonna get better. So it's
Right.
I don't know. I don't know who can beat them on. I think that if they play this tournament 10 times, they win 9 of them. Now, is this
Hmm.
the one time that they lose it? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. They just look, the, I think the separator with them right now is they just look like a squad that can turn it on quick, right? You just see in terms of how they did versus Portugal and how they did with Belgium, which sets up an interesting one right here because now was it? I think Italy and Spain have to play if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Portugal playing Belgium, so this could set up where you're gonna kind of be looking at the goal differential as the difference between Italy and Portugal if these results play out the way we think they will with Italy playing Spain and Portugal playing Belgium. So we move on. So, Coach Venegas, thoughts on the Euros so far? As I'm just highlighting, going through the groups here. You don't have to speak to any of these, whichever ones. What are your thoughts
Man,
so
I
far?
just, I just think it's gonna be like it looks like you got Spain, and then who's gonna give Spain a run for their money?
Mhm.
Uh, because you got Spain as a team that can control the game. I mean, every single one of their players is extremely technical, but they can also be athletic whenever they need to.
Right.
So it'll be interesting though to see like whenever they match up, like if they match up against a very direct team or athletic a team that's a little more athletic, like maybe like a England's the only one I can think of. Uh,
Right.
but they're just a team that, like Elias was saying, like that midfield can control the ball and they can dictate the pace of the game. If they want to slow it down, if they want to move it around a little bit, trying to make you fall asleep and all of a sudden turn it on. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those teams that you really want to model your game after them.
Hmm.
Uh, and I
Yeah.
mean, I
No,
think
I
that's
agree.
something that Spain's had going on like all levels, youth
Mhm.
levels, men's side, women's side. Like that's something that they do a great job with.
And you look at these two. You look at these other two groups, right? So you look at C. Look at C and D. They're very much still out there, still very much up in the air, right? You look at Group C: Germany, Sweden, Denmark, and Poland. Germany and Sweden currently with the goal differential going to Germany, and then in D, the surprise right here, someone's gonna get booted here, right? You look at the Dutch, the French, and England. England sitting here now with 0 points so far, and obviously they still got to play another match. But kind of interesting to see what happens here. We look at these, particularly this one. This is one that I find intriguing. So, match day 2 coming up on Wednesday. England's has to face the Dutch, and then France, advantage France here, going up against current last place Wales. So England's got to come to play here, right? So that will go a long way to determine their future out of the group stage.
Man, that's a crazy crew right there with
I
England,
know, I
Netherlands, and
know,
France. That's a
Mhm.
and they're playing good, man. The Dutch, Netherlands are playing very, very well here. And then we look at match day 2 coming up tomorrow, I believe. Yeah. So for Group C, Germany versus Denmark and Poland versus Sweden. So this should play out. Let me look at that. This should play out. All roads kind of lead to a match day 3 winner take all between Sweden and Germany, probably for the group, is what that looks like. So, Rafa, thoughts on the UEFA Women's Euros so far?
I've caught some games, like I saw the France and England game. Like I said, France did a great job holding on. Like I said, England looked kind of a little shaky. I would really keep an eye on the Dutch team. They could be that dark horse that could go if they can get a result with England. They may be a team that you maybe don't want to play in the knockout stage. Like I said, Germany's Germany. They should take care of business. I think the Euros is for Spain to lose. The pressure's on them to deliver. So if one of his other teams can catch him on the bad night on one of those knockout stages, like I said, things can make things very interesting. But it's Spain to lose on for this tournament. But keep an eye on the Dutch. I think they may surprise some teams.
Yeah, I think, and that's interesting, right? I put it over back to you, Elias. Could it be that Netherlands team that maybe is that matchup that could expose those holes that you're talking about versus Spain?
Yeah, I think if I've watched them in other tournaments, they always seem really well organized. They have a couple of good players that can kind of hit you in those moments. I think there's going to be somebody that sits in the game that is able to deny them, space. And you look at both these games versus, Belgium and Portugal. Part of the reason that they have been so successful is if they can get a lead and you have to come out versus them, they are going to shred you. You have to defend in these deep blocks versus Spain because they're just that good. So if you can hang around and you don't have to leave your block, I think that you can cause them problems. It's one of we saw it kind of with PSG versus Inter Milan, versus the game of Barcelona versus Inter Milan, where PSG scored early, Inter had to start to come out and they got shredded. Whereas against Barcelona, they were able to sit in. Barcelona never, got hit on the counter because they had to throw numbers forward. So I think those are two kind of similar, two similar games that could be played out in two different ways. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But if they get a lead on you, I think it's going to be really hard for anybody to beat them.
Well, and the interesting thing with the Netherlands too is, do they have that blueprint that could give Spain a hard time from the standpoint of still very technically savvy, obviously technically skilled, but the size, right? The size, the physicality, and if patient enough and composed, dropping into a lower block, right? Is that the blueprint versus Spain, right? And I would say maybe right now they might be the toughest matchup, right, for Spain from what we've seen so far.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Coach Heyman, anything else to add?
I think whoever comes out of that Group D, France and Netherlands, I think the French and the Dutch are the two teams that can give Spain any type of match in this tournament, from what I've seen. So,
gotcha. Good deal. All right, moving on here. So, all right. So, and all right. So we'll move on here. So, next thing we got. That's what's kind of unfolding, or what has already happened, right? So, next thing that's coming up. So, I believe it starts on Friday. The CONMEBOL, the Women's Copa America, hasn't started yet. It's taking place in Uruguay. Thoughts on this one so far? We'll start with you, Rafa.
Should be interesting. Like I said, I think the two dominant teams is Colombia and Brazil. I mean, those are the class acts, but we'll see what Argentina has. Can they rise up? Chile, Chile's another up and coming team. So it's like I said, it should be a fun tournament. It's going to be chilly because it's wintertime down there in Uruguay. Right. So the weather could be a factor down there in Montevideo. So, but it should be great soccer. I think that's the thing is hopefully, like it says, this starts, kind of like the men's side. When you see the Copa America on the men's side, like I said, you're going to get really exciting matches. Mm-hmm. The women's side is starting to kind of come together. Even though you have two dominant teams, like I said, but the other teams are starting to kind of creep in and get better talent. I think what they're doing, they're investing a little bit more especially on the youth levels, to develop the young girls there. And like
Yeah.
I said, and I think in due time, I don't think it'll match up maybe with the Euros for the women, but I think it'll be. I think maybe where the Gold Cup, where the women's version is, I think I'll get up there in due time.
Yeah. So, Coach Ramos, thoughts on this Copa America?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you think of South American teams, I think the two big ones are Brazil and Colombia, like you said. I am interested to see, like, is this where South America starts to make a jump and kind of start to join in the conversations? Where kind of like how Europe did, I feel like Europe was a little bit ahead, but for a long time it was the US, Japan, China, and that was about it, right? You had Sweden in there for a little bit, and then now all of a sudden all these European teams are becoming more competitive. So hopefully that's the same idea in South America, where these South American teams are all starting to get a little bit more competitive, and I think that just helps in general. Even if you get one or two teams that are more competitive, that's going to help Colombia and Brazil. Even if they're the best teams, that's going to make them better for the World Cup, because if they can get better competition, then they'll be more prepared. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it all plays out. I can't say I know a whole lot about South American women's national teams.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to keeping up with it and hopefully catching a couple games.
Still very much a work in progress. But Coach Venegas, what can you tell us about Peru? What can you tell us about them?
I mean, I think we're still a few years behind, like the top two, which is like Brazil and Colombia. I mean, you look at the Peruvian roster, and you still have. I think there was a couple other players that are collegiate players here in the United States. Compared to the majority of Brazil's roster that are all professional players. Or you look at the European teams, they're all like have a professional. They're all playing their professional system.
Right.
I think like teams are still like Peru, Bolivia, a few other ones like maybe like Chile too. Like there's Uruguay on the women's side. They're still trying to catch up to the rest. But I think like you might have a surprise team like Venezuela, who has improved.
There always seems to be one.
tremendously.
There always seems to be one that sneaks up on somebody.
That has improved tremendously on the women's side, But I think outside of those, Colombia and Brazil, it's
Could
tough.
it be Argentina, right? Argentina's just been inconsistent. A lot of these, and we talked about it, Rafa mentioned it as well, Coach Ramos, that they're inconsistent in terms of their support, right? I mentioned to you guys offline, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw the story it was the Uruguayan, the host women's national team, protesting ongoing issues and support through whether it's training grounds, money being paid to the players, what have you, just general support, right? So they're still playing catch up, unfortunately, in South America. But Coach Heyman, thoughts on this?
I think the tournament comes down to Brazil and Colombia, with the players they have, and it's interesting they're in the same group, and they'll play each other in group stage. So I think that'll be a good show for how this final is going to look. I think always, like you said, there's always some team that steps up and just surprises players. But I think right now, because of just the disparity in the money, in the training facilities, in the infrastructure of these federations, Brazil and Colombia is just, they're 4 steps ahead of everybody else right now. And until these other federations start putting that same effort, that same money into it, we're going to see, these teams here. And I think that we saw that in Europe early on, when it was Norway and Sweden that were the top teams in Europe for a very long time, until countries like England and France and Spain started putting in the money to build their infrastructures and identify their players and develop their players. So, we're seeing that. And I think we're also trying to see that in Africa as well. Same thing. These countries are not willing to invest in the women's game, and it could be a lot of reasons why. But until they start doing that, you're still going to see the countries that are putting in the money that are going to get the results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
and let's be fair, some of these countries too, they're not exactly investing in their men's programs either.
No.
So I mean, that should tell you where some of them are at for any number of reasons. But yeah, I agree. I think the other piece, what's kind of floating in the back of my mind, particularly as you said, they're in the same group, is this the moment where so Brazil's kind of been the mainstay, the superpower, so to speak, right, out of South America to this point. They've been in place the longest. Is this the moment where maybe Colombia finally really leapfrogs them, right?
I mean,
That's what I'm kind of curious to see.
is Marta playing in this one for Brazil? Because if she's not, who replaces that leadership?
I
And
thought she
that,
was done. Is she not
yeah,
retired? I
I
thought she
thought
was
so
done
too.
with the
But
national
who
team.
replaces that void in that team? And is this Brazil on a rebuilding stage? And this is the opportunity for Colombia to knock them off and take the lead in South America for right now.
And does this Uruguay, despite what I just mentioned, does this Uruguayan team, do they kind of catch fire? And because sometimes you see that from the host team, right? Host country, right? Do they catch fire and kind of play out of their minds as well? So we shall see. But that does it for all our summer of soccer talk as it relates to everything international and professional. But the last thing we want to wrap up with is we want to take it through and we want to kind of highlight your respective teams, right? Coach Venegas, Coach Ramos, your girls, Coach Heyman, your boys, and kind of take us through what your summers with your teams have been like so far. What have you been up to? What have you seen? And then also, what has you excited leading up to this upcoming season? We'll start with you, Coach Venegas.
So actually, this year we took a different approach to our summer. We have been like towards the end of the school year in May. All we did was just weight room stuff. We didn't do any soccer stuff because like once the season was over, uh, we had a meeting with our girls, and I mean we all came to the conclusion that we all needed some type of rest. Uh, so May and June have been completely off for us. Like we haven't done any type like in June. All we had is our youth soccer camp. Like it's second grade through incoming freshmen, things like that. And then today was just the start of our first day of strength and conditioning camp, uh, where we're starting to work a little more like which we're really like working on speed days, and like just building the power
Yeah.
like in the weight room, things like that. But I'm a firm believer that kids need to be kids in the summer, and it's good to have a break with all the club. Like our clientele, like in our program, we have so many girls. Like 90% of our girls are playing club soccer somewhere, and so many of them are playing like in different national tournaments all over the place, even in May and June. So it's hard to find a balance of like that time. Like we don't have any like we're still 6-7 months away from our season. So it's hard to find that balance. So we just completely shut it down May and June, and starting to pick it up a little bit in July, and go from there. And I think it's worked very well. We had about 36 girls showed up today.
I saw that. Yeah, it looked awesome. I
The
saw that.
first day, and it was a great opportunity for our upperclassmen to talk to them about our 4 core values, and kind of like just welcome the freshmen, the incoming freshmen, any girl that's new to the school, to what our program's about and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Good deal. Coach Ramos?
Yeah, we kind of same thing. Throughout the summer, we have our strength and conditioning is run by Performance Course. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
Yeah.
so
How do you how are you liking that? What are your thoughts on that? Because I seem to get not mixed reviews, but I don't know, like inconsistent feedback, I guess.
I think our guy does a really good job.
Yeah.
He's been doing it for a long time. I think it's well thought out.
And for those who may not know, Coach, give us a kind of brief synopsis of what that looks like.
So we have a program, a company that comes in and they specialize in strength and conditioning training, and we kind of outsource that. All the high schools in McKinney and the middle schools outsource their strength and conditioning camps to Performance Course over the summer. So you have a different set of coaches come in that are more focused on the strength and conditioning side, and they run a weight room session and a conditioning session with the girls. I think it's nice that we don't have to come up with it and we don't have to run it and those kinds of things. But I also think that's also the downside to it. So it's how comfortable are you with handing over that piece of your program? I think that it's good for the girls to hear a different voice, but then also I think that there's something for if your coach is the one leading it, I think you may get a little bit more engagement. So we really just push it for our freshmen and sophomores. Really, our underclassmen, we really push that. The juniors and seniors, they've got, especially in our area, they've got so many things going on,
Right.
and so we just do skills a couple of times a week. During the month of June, we only have 4 sessions, the whole month of June. So we got about 20, 25 girls come out. It's always a different kind of, group that comes out. And we'll start again in tomorrow with kind of our July. Got a lot of girls, I think, that are going to be there tomorrow. I've heard from a lot of them. A lot of them travel in June. There's Young Life Camp. There's, like Coach Venegas said, there's ECNL, ECRL Nationals, GA Nationals, every single ID camp under the sun. They're coming off of tryout season. So I always tell them that, if you're in town and you're not doing anything, then I want you up here. But don't schedule your summer around it. Don't move your vacations or anything like that. So yeah, but I'm excited. We got a big freshman class coming in. I have a really large senior class this year. I think I have 13 seniors. So really excited to have that, that veteran leadership that's been there, trying to have
pick you to pick McKinney Boyd to make a run.
We got to get in the playoffs first. We didn't make it last year. So we're, I think that's lit a fire under them is, they're ready to do what it takes to get back in the dance. And our district is just so tough. We have Allen, we have Prosper, we have the 3 Planos. But it's also exciting because, you know that you're getting good competition. So yeah, excited for our senior class and what they're going to do. And we got some really exciting underclassmen too. So hoping it's a good year.
Yeah. Now, I can't remember if you were talking about when we had this conversation before, summer or fall. Are you still doing the 7v7?
It's an 11v11 league in the fall.
Oh, is it 11s? Oh, okay. I thought it was 7s.
It's okay. five games. I think we have like 3 at home and 2 away. They're on Wednesday nights. I think we play this year. We're playing Plano East.
Still doing it.
The girls enjoyed it. It gave us something to kind of look forward to in the fall. I didn't make it mandatory. I kind of let them I opened it up to my returning varsity players and then my JV players and then my freshman team players and kind of just let them fill in the roster as they, they know what they have coming up and stuff like that. But it was good, especially for our freshmen to get to work with the seniors and it was an early taste for them of what, high school soccer looked like. And it was a good evaluation tool for us to watch, who's really ready and who needs probably another year or so.
Right. Good deal. Coach Heyman, thoughts?
Well, I mean, the summer's been a summer. We shut ourselves down. We shut down during the summer. I've always been a firm believer that the kids need to be kids during the summer. They just need to enjoy it, take some time off. We work them hard for 9 months, and those 3 months that we're on summer break, let them enjoy it. I explained it to our new head football coach. I was like, I've got 4 months to prepare my guys for the games they're playing. And most of our kids, a lot of our kids leave the country. They go down to Mexico with their families during the summer. So, I'm not stressing myself out to be up at the school when 8 kids show up to practice. But, and those kids are also playing at the park. There's pickup games at the park all the time down the street in Baytown. So there's always kids playing. But, we did our camp this summer. We kind of restarted our camp this year with our girls program. And, we had about 85 kids show up, which for us is good at Sterling. People look at, when they look at soccer in Baytown, they still see Goose Creek Memorial as kind of the head of the class. Their boys made state a couple of years ago. Their girls have made some deep runs. So, Sterling is slowly trying to, we're trying to put our name in the city and what we do and everything. So getting kids excited about playing soccer and providing an atmosphere for them. but for us, like I said, my assistant coach took over as the boys head cross country coach this year. So he is, and he did a heck of a job last year, first year coach. I know you met him at Tasco,
Right.
and
Right.
he has a very good relationship with the kids. And when our guys found out he was going to be head cross country coach, now we've got 9 guys out there running cross country every day with him. So that'll help us in the long run. I know he and I have talked a little bit about what we want to try to do next year differently than what we did this year. But like I said, our summer we take it off. I was kind of forced to take it off. I did work camp with our good friend Coach Hurtado, and then worked camp at SMU. So I was hobbling around for 8 days up there. But for me, I just one leg or not, I'm gonna be on a soccer field somewhere. So that's kind of been our summer. And for us coming back next year, like we were just so young last year. We were starting 5 sophomores and a freshman. We made a run in district, got ourselves into the playoffs. We went out in penalties to Angleton.
Made the playoffs on the final game of the district season.
Right? We found ourselves into a 3-way tie by winning our last game. So that's always good. And
being dramatic.
I like the dramatics. I don't want to be in there already and not have the final game not mean anything. So,
right.
But we lost in penalties to Angleton, who ended up winning the region, and they gave San Antonio Southwest a game for half a game. So when we look at that, we look at what we're capable of doing going into next year. Mm-hmm. So for us, our biggest issue at Sterling is 4 of our varsity starters don't go to Sterling High School. They go to our early college high school. So I don't see them at all because the bell schedules don't balance. So I don't see them at all until soccer season starts. And then when soccer season starts, they're not getting to school until their school lets out at 3:30. Well, we're already 30 minutes into workouts and so it is a little bit of a juggling issue for us. But those kids have come to me, and they've already tried to work out their schedule so they can be with us a little earlier. Next year. They're going to be the guys that kind of lead this team. Our goalkeeper is one of those kids, and we're excited to have him back. We've loaded up our schedule with a lot of the tougher teams in the area. We've got Pasadena, Angleton, Rosenberg, Terry. We've got them on our schedule already, so we're not afraid. I kind of told my guys this year, I'm going to beat you up in the preseason to see where we're at, because we feel like and it's going to be even crazier. We're going to be even younger this year than we were last year. We only have we graduate 3 seniors this year. We only have 2 seniors starting. So, these kids are going to come in with some experience, but they're real young. And it was funny. We lost in that playoff game, and I told the guys, let's take a couple days, and they didn't want that. They wanted to get right back at it because they felt like, they let themselves down not winning that playoff game. And they're the funny thing is they took pictures. They went to our yearbook sponsor, and they got the pictures from the playoff game, all the pictures after the game of all of them sitting on the turf crying and upset and everything, and they've put it on each other's lockers to remind each other, hey, this is where we were last year, this is where we're not going next year. And I don't think I've ever seen a team that's in May having that type of that drive already, that's what they're playing with, that kind of focus already. And they came out, a lot of them have already come out and said, hey, where can I find a better club team? I want to play on this team. I need to get on this team. And we've had kids that have jumped into other clubs, in other club situations that are going to be better for them going forward. So, for me, I sit at home. I'm always the cautious optimist of the group, and I just hope we find 11 guys that can kick the ball in the same direction and play the same style. But I think watching this summer, watching the Gold Cup, watching the Club World Cup, I've got some new ideas that I want to try to throw in with this group, because I think I have the talent in Baytown to finally play the kind of style that I like to play. So we'll see how that looks.
Awesome. Good deal. Coach Venegas, wanted to throw it back over to you. So you host one of the premier tournaments in the state over the course of 3 separate weekends. Any plugs? I know you're still looking for at least one team in week 3, that third week in January. Any plugs? Anything that you wanted to share with everybody? Put it out there.
We got one more open spot for the third weekend, which I think is January
15th, I think, through the 17th, right? Is that right?
15th through the 17th, something like
I
that.
think. Yeah.
We got one more spot. We're at 39 teams right now for that week. So we're trying to make it even, trying to get to 40 and shut it down from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we host 3 weekends of it. First weekend is the boys weekend. So Coach Ramirez, he's our head men's soccer coach. He takes care of that weekend. He takes care of all the boys teams and all that. Week 2 is we split it. So we have 24 girl teams and 20 or 22 boys teams during that week. And then the third weekend is all girls. So over the 3 weekends, we host over 100 teams.
It's crazy. You guys do a great job of it too.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. It's a team effort. Definitely, we have all of our assistants. All their
I thought I was going to
coaches.
finally get to play against Elias, but he's sticking to week 2, and he'd rather go play district play apparently. So yeah, so I don't know.
Well, we were thinking of playing Elias, but after what he said, we might not schedule him.
Awesome. So definitely look forward to it. So my Canyon girls will be there for sure. So looking forward to finally being able to experience that as well in week 3, I believe. So Rafa, any questions for the coaches regarding their summers, their teams, anything before we wrap up?
I just want to ask predictions. Out of all the state champions that won this year, who has the best opportunity to repeat?
Ooh, Salina girls.
Last year in Florida. Last year in Florida.
Yeah, I think on the. I think Wakeland is going to come back with a vengeance in girls 5A. I don't know what A&M Consolidated has coming back, so it's hard to pick them.
They're young. They have a lot of players.
Yeah,
they were fun to watch this past year. They were fun to watch, but yeah, definitely agree with you. Definitely never go against El Cucuy and Wakeland. They'll be back for sure. They'll be back. What else, guys? Who else? Anything? Coach Chapman, Coach Venegas?
I think A&M Consolidated has I think it all depends on, do you go D2 or do you go D1, right? Like, I think the path matters a lot to see where you fall in that. So it depends. Cedar Park.
Keep in mind, we had two state champions from the same. What was it? Is it 5-6A? Was it 5-6A or 6-6A?
5-6A.
Is it 5-6A? Right. So those are some pretty good odds right there too.
That's the district we match up with first round.
Right. Capel and Marcus.
I think the repeat state championship will probably come from the girls' side more than the boys' side. I think the boys' side is always wide open. You have your traditional power teams, but you always have those teams that come out of nowhere, and like a Klein Kane that no one really knew much about this whole year. And I've known Coach Carrasco for a long time, coached against him a few times, and the job he did over at Klein Kane this year was incredible. And getting
what a great story, man. I was like, first year there, winning a season, wins district, wins state. I was like, dude, you need to retire. You need to hang up.
I called him and said, hey, so are we playing again this year? And he goes, oh, by the way, I'm at Klein Kane. And I'm like, dude, thanks for letting me know. Yeah.
Such a great story. Such a great story.
And he's a great guy. Really is. So couldn't be happier for him.
Yeah. So, all right, as we wrap up here, got one more thing. Been bombarding you guys with a lot of the stuff, a lot of the questions. Going to give you guys the opportunity, any random, whatever's on your mind, shoot a question right back at me. We'll start with Coach Ramos. Coach Ramos.
How was Canyon?
It's good, man. It's great. It's great. Yeah. I'm lucky. I'm blessed. Just top to bottom, administration, athletic coordinators, everything, and then my girls are just absolute class. So I'm excited. I'm happy. It's been great so far. We haven't had a chance to do a whole lot so far in the summer, but I'm definitely excited what I'm seeing, and definitely blessed and appreciative of showing them that they made the right the right decision in picking me. So it's fun. It's great. And it's a great just great location too. Cannot emphasize that enough. But yeah, thank you for asking. So who else? Let's go, Rafa. What do you got for me? Anything?
Um, the other one is coming up in
I'm a
October.
Virgo.
Uh,
No, okay.
Realignment. How's that? What do you think goes? Do you go D1, D2 as far as district wise instead of like how we have the playoffs?
Ooh.
Do you think that's going to
Canyon?
change?
Well,
Yeah.
Canyon.
Do you think you see a D1 6A, D2 6A
Oh, I got you.
districts?
No, I don't think so because we're going to be in the middle since we're in the middle still of a. Well, no, it won't. Are you saying will it happen
But for
the next realignment? Is that what you're saying?
District realignment. Do you anticipate a D1, D2 district?
So I guess I don't know how much that was discussed in the UAL, not the legislative, just the general summer meetings. But I know there's a lot of people coupled with the feedback being provided from Tasco, maybe through THSCA this summer coaching school. This is another. This is going to let me segue to what I was going to mention at the end, but coaching school, THSCA here, later this month here in San Antonio. This is why soccer coaches, as many of you think there's no need for it, or you shouldn't go, or I already go to Tasco, or THSCA is more for football. I mean, nothing could be further from the truth, but this is there. It's growing more and more. I think Coach Ramos can back me up on that on the soccer side, the quality of it. But it's an opportunity to have these conversations with non-soccer people to bang the drum on if you want to split a preseason split between D1 and D2. It's just another opportunity to have your voice heard. I don't know. I really don't know. I know they're hearing that. Are they going to make that decision? I don't know, because that's going to require some work on their end. How much and how much are they willing to do? I don't know. So,
well, like for example, in our district we have Allen, which is the biggest school in the state, Plano East, which is the second biggest school in the state, and then Plano West, which is the third biggest school in the state. So those three teams all made the playoffs. So the third biggest school in the state went D2 in women's soccer. Like, to me, that just doesn't make any sense if you're going to have divisions to kind of even out the enrollment disparities. So.
And what was do you know that off the top of your head what that enrollment number was for that third team?
It was like 5,100.
In the fives, right? Yeah.
I think Allen has like 7,000, East has like 5,500, and then West has like 5,100.
That's insane.
And then we have 2,400.
Yeah. That's about where Canyon is right now. So it's crazy. So, Coach Venegas.
What's your summer looking like? Now you're a new school, a Canyon. Like you said, you haven't been able to do much, but like what's
Well,
what's your team?
we've had 3, 6, I think 6 or 7 skill sessions, some opportunities, some open field sessions, and then also had a camp under our belt already with a couple of my players being camp coaches as well. Just another opportunity to just be around them and start working on those relationships as well, seeing what I have, but also I'm still getting to know, put names. I like to use this opportunity to learn names, learn stories, right? So, and the more that I get to interact with them from that perspective, that's what I'm using this summer as, aside from all my course training and stuff that I have to do this summer, working on my CDL this summer. So that's what's kind of taking up a lot of my time as well. But that's pretty much been my summer as so far. So got another opportunity to hit the field with them this Friday, and then we got another next Friday as well, and then we got a camp coming up at the end of right after coaching school. So, Coach Heyman.
All right. So rumor is USA Honduras, October 10th in Austin. Hasn't been announced yet, but I know people who know people who know people. So
I was gonna say, how good is that source? How good is that source?
It's good enough to know that I've already booked a room in Austin, and I've already booked flights and hotels in Denver for the game on the 14th against Australia. So that's already lined up.
Australia is where? Denver?
Yeah, the rumor is
Denver.
Honduras and Austin, Australia and Denver, and then in September we've got South Korea. I believe it's South Korea in New York and Japan in Columbus, or vice versa.
So that would match up with Mexico, right?
Yeah,
Basically
so
flip flopping
it's
when
opposite
they're
of
here
them.
for yeah.
And
Okay.
we're playing at Red Bull Arena and at Home Fortress, so we'll see how those go this summer. But for the game in Austin, are you and I going to be standing in the stands wearing our red, white, and blue shirts off, chest painted? We're going to be having a good time.
Hey man, let's do it. I'd love to. What is October 10th anyway? What is that?
It's a
Like
Friday.
middle of the week?
It's a
Oh, it's
Friday.
a Friday.
It's a
Oh,
Friday
nice.
night. You know, you can get out of school early. We can get out there, and and then the Australia game's on a Tuesday. So
Yeah.
perfectly, it falls right in the middle of fall break for us at the school. So I'm not going to take any personal days to get out of there to get to
There you
Denver. Have a good
Let's
time.
do it, man. You
So-
provide the ticket. I'll provide my boyish good looks, and we'll get to it, man. I'd love to do it.
As long as they're not $155 like the Gold Cup finals were last night, I get you a ticket.
Yeah, I just wish we weren't playing another, CONCACAF team.
I agree.
But yeah, it is what it is. But I guess I guess it's going to be interesting to see who will be there, right? Who'll be on that roster,
It'll
right? For this
it'll be
camp.
during a window, so
Yeah.
everyone's available. So we'll see.
Yeah, good deal. Awesome. Well, hey, gentlemen, this has been great. We start to wrap up here. Stoppage time. As is customary, we want to give you guys the opportunity to. I know we've discussed a lot today, trying to wrap it up here because we're entering Joe Rogan status here. But thoughts, anything, shout outs, thank yous, anything that's been on your mind. Obviously, we started the show under the very sad, devastating circumstances and talking about our Hill Country, all our victims of Hill Country, people going through that, but also wanted to recognize just first responders, all that good stuff as well. There's been a lot of good in this, seeing Texans helping Texans as well. And then, of course, our hearts going out to one of our own and Coach Zunker and his family. But aside, whatever may be on your mind, shout outs, thank yous, all that stuff, stoppage time. This is that opportunity. We'll start with Rafa.
Well, just a quick update. I do have a new employer
There you go.
starting September 1st. So a lot of people know I work for University of Houston Victoria. Well, we're no longer University of Houston Victoria. September 1st, we are now going to be Texas A&M Victoria. So we're not part of the A&M system. So
September 1st, you said, right? September
1st.
Yeah.
So we're the 12th university for them, for the system, the 12th man. So we're excited.
I like
I know the city. So the Victoria's area is very excited about it. I think the chancellor of the university will be at our campus on July the 17th. So, and I'll be there for training. So hopefully I get to meet him. And then, like I said, if you like USL soccer, like I said, we have the San Antonio FC Fancast, everything SAFC. We'll have hopefully an episode this week over the big win over El Paso. Sorry, Coach.
Okay.
on that one, but a
That's
great win
not
for
my
the boys.
primary team. That's my
Yeah.
secondary. I cheer for them here, but that's not my primary team.
So we have that coming up, and then like I said, we also for the game on Saturday of July 12th, FTC and 210 Alliance, the supporter group for SAFC, we are going to be taking donations for the victims there in Kerrville. So stop by. Tailgate starts at 4. Stop by under the bridge, under Thousand Oaks Bridge. Whatever you like to donate. Like I said, a lot of the messages are on there. What to donate? It's on the.
You guys have that
FTC.
info out on social media too,
Yeah,
right, Coach?
we post it on Facebook, Twitter, X, and then also on Instagram. So we'll be there. So like I said, we want to collect a lot of great things for the victims there and send them off to them. So if you have any stuff to donate, we'll be there. Plus, we'll have some free drinks for everyone there, some food, and should be a fun game against the Tampa Bay Rowdies on Saturday.
Yeah. Coach Ramos?
Just kind of think the same thing that everyone's thinking, just thinking about everyone down in the Hill Country and wishing everyone, as easy of a healing process as possible. But it has been, you see a lot of these stories of people going above and beyond for their fellow man, which has been, it gives you a good, it reminds you that there is still good in the world, even when there's a lot of bad. But other than that, just, thankful to be here again. Thankful to be talking to other guys that care about our sport so much and that care about our niche part of the soccer world as much as we do with the high school soccer, and just looking forward to the game continuing to grow. Looking forward to going down to Georgetown again. Hopefully we don't have to dodge an ice storm this year to get down there. But we're excited for the year and looking forward to seeing all y'all and getting this thing really going here. Not too long from now.
Now, Coach Venegas, Coach Ramos is telling me that when they're down there in January, they're going to go ahead and book reservations for April. So that's what I hear, right? So
Oh yeah,
just FYI. So.
Just
we can get hooked up with the hotel down there.
Yeah. Awesome. Coach Heyman?
Well, first off, I want to thank Dr. David Bloom for sewing my Achilles back together.
There you go.
I'll see him in the morning, and hopefully we're out of this splint and I'm off the crutches and can start my process to be running and jumping again by soccer season. But also, my thoughts are with everybody in the Hill Country. It's never easy seeing what you see on TV and seeing the images and everything, and just how devastating everything is. So, my heart just breaks seeing it as well. One other thing, I know the soccer community up in Dallas, we lost Gordon Jago earlier this week. Gordon Jago played for he coached the Sidekicks for a long time, and you always saw him up at the Dallas Cup, and he was always real giving with his time and wanting to talk the game of soccer. And I know I spoke a couple times with him, and so my thoughts and prayers go out to his family as well. So, there's a lot of loss going on right now. So, just a sad time, but at the same time, we're happy to be able to at least take a break for an hour and 51:09 to talk with you guys, and just have some camaraderie and some brotherhood, and looking forward to seeing you guys down in Galveston in November and doing this all over again. So
awesome. Well said. Coach Venegas, bring it on home.
Just thoughts and prayers to everyone that was affected down in the Hill Country area. Of course, it's been a pleasure to be part of this episode of the podcast. It's been lots of fun, and just a shout out to all the Austin area soccer coaches, both on the men's side and the women's side, who do a great job here in the Austin area. I think they did a great job representing Central Texas this past season with Liberty Hill, Cedar Park, Coach Poole, and Coach Larino having great seasons.
Yeah.
So just a huge shout out to all the Austin coaches.
Yeah, and gotta mention it as well, is you guys were had to deal with some stuff too and get a scare there right in the Georgetown area too. So glad to hear, generally speaking, everyone is okay. But excuse me, my final thoughts definitely don't want to end the show on a damper, but it's hard you cannot ignore this either. And we've talked about it already, so I don't want to, overdo it, I guess, but definitely our hearts, our thoughts, our love, prayers, condolences, support. We are with all of Central Texas, the Hill Country, Kerrville, the Kerrville-Tivy community, the Kerrville-Tivy boys soccer program. Anything we can do for you all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let us know. This week has been brutal, not just locally, but then also me personally being for what it's worth, being a Liverpool fan, right? Just the tragic sudden loss of, Diogo Jota and his brother as well. It's just hard to believe, right? So I wanted to mention that as well. But I guess the good in all of this, you always see a lot of good in terms of just people, right? How they respond to this. And also, and to be honest, it was kind of one of the reasons why I was also really wanting to look forward to get this episode out, just to be around kind of like you all said, right? Just the brotherhood piece, the fellowship piece, and Coach Ramos talking about, right, our little niche, our passion here. And this is, I guess, can be cathartic in its own right? So this is why I tell people, it's like, I don't need therapy. That's what the podcast is for, right? I get to talk through that. So I really appreciate you all, gentlemen, Thank you for being here tonight. Really appreciate you guys, all of you, all at all different parts of Texas too. So I think that says something. And shout out to Coach Alonso from Irving MacArthur as well. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you. So that is going to do it. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you for all of our listeners, all our supporters across the state of Texas. Cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you. Again, follow us on Twitter X, Twix, as we call it, at 50_50 podcast. On Instagram, at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube. Go on there. Cannot tell you how many people listen to our podcast on YouTube that are not subscribed. So go on there, subscribe, hit that bell notification, that bell, so you can get the live notification, and you won't miss anything we do. Since 99.9 of everything we do is live, you'll get that raw and uncut. So go on there. If you like listening to the traditional audio podcast, whatever your podcast platform of choice is, go on there, give us a rating, like, rate, subscribe. Again, you like what you hear, give us a 5-star rating. If you don't like what you hear, send all complaints to Rafa. I'll send you his email. Okay, so he does our complaint department, as I like to say. But gentlemen, really appreciate you guys. Thank you for all of our listeners, all our supporters, everybody across the state of Texas. Texas Hill Country, Central Texas, we are with you. We love you guys. Hang in there, and you're not alone. So until the next time, you know what to do. Keep downloading and keep listening.
You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.